Good day, emerging mothers. Good day. Good day, good day. Listen, I'm at one of my favorite eateries here in Texas. And of course, the moment I sat down, got settled, which was not long ago, then of course my favorite eatery, and they're still my favorite eatery, they decided to turn up their music. But listen, that's A-okay. I just brought my laptop closer to me so that you all would be able to hear me. And so what I want to talk to you about today is what's been posted in our group here really throughout the week. And what's been posted in our group has been all about transition planning. Transition. And let's be honest. When we think about transition planning, we think about initially, our teens and them transitioning out of the home, which we do. And guess what? I've even spoke about that over and over and over again, transitioning. And then, you know what? Thank you. The workers here are even amazing. Oh my goodness. I just love them. I love them. But nonetheless, so we're talking about, of course, in this segment, we're talking about us transitioning and making sure that we are ready for our teens leaving the home. And listen, I just have to be open and honest and transparent with you that this is the area where I struggled the most. And I think that I struggled the most because, and those who know me have an idea that this is an area that was just totally, just vulnerable. Was vulnerable in this area because, I had spent so much time preparing my daughters to transition out of the home. Then I really spent very little time, of course, on myself and me preparing for the transition, of course. So if we think about it, from elementary all the way up into high school, it's interesting because they have it pretty much laid out for them for the most part. And generally speaking, they go to elementary school and middle school and high school, and really the classes are already there that they need to take. It's just a matter of them choosing what their area of interest is. Like, for instance, elementary school, there's really no choice there. They have to take the classes that are offered in elementary school. They get to middle school, and then in middle school, of course, they're able to kind of pick and choose just a little bit. There's some, the regular classes that they need to take, but then they're also able to, choose some electives here and there. And then it becomes even broader when they're in high school. But nonetheless, it's all ironed out. And so for them to just simply have to choose classes that are already there, it's not as though they have to create a class. It's not as though they have to build a curriculum for a class that they want. None of that. They are making a choice depending on, of course, what they're interested in. And then even in college, more so than not, listen, the classes are already there. They're just still making a selection. So really it's for them, it's pretty much already mapped out. And so in order to move them to the next level, of course, we spend time encouraging them and helping them and supporting them and partnering with them, and then, helping them to self-advocate and move closer and more towards interdependence. We're helping them, of course, to set realistic expectations, and then along the way, we assess, we do, and then we share with them our thoughts, just so that they can begin to, or continue to, of course, tweak their behavior, maybe tweak their verbiage, tweak their decision making, so that they're actually prepared to live in this here world. And so really that's what we do in reference to helping them transition, and lots of other things as well. But listen, I want to, of course, make sure that we're clear about what it is that we want to do during this time. What we want to do is we want to make our own decisions about our own selves, our own lives. We want to, and if you have a relationship with Christ, and I do, then of course, consulting with Him and asking what would you have me to do? Who would you have me to meet? What would you have me to say? All of those different things. And I've done that, since I was a born again believer. Because listen, I have messed some things up myself on my own. So it's like I need like a higher power, and for me that higher power is God. I spend time with Him in the mornings. I spend time with Him during the day. In meditations, just to make sure that what I'm doing, it's what He wants me to do. So with that being said, listen, let's just talk about some ways or some things that we ought to concentrate on prior to our teens transition out of the home. Because guess what? We ought to already be doing some things. We just ought to. So say for instance for me, or for you as well, and I have to speak in general, because some of you may work, some of you may not work. So when that teen, of course, transitions out of the home, then we want to be thinking about that already. Am I going back to work? Or am I going to discontinue working? Am I going to work part-time? Am I going to work full-time and then have a part-time job now that my teen is out of the home? I might want to earn some extra money. I might want to begin traveling or some things like that. So from a professional perspective, what is it that I want to do? How do I want to spend some of my valuable time? What skills do I want to learn so that I'm marketable and I'm ready to step back out into the working world if I have yet to be working already? Or, if the professional realm, if that's already settled, then what do I want to do from a personal perspective? Maybe from a personal perspective, what I'd like to do is I'd like to maybe, maybe pick up a hobby. I might want to start sewing. I might want to start maybe crocheting. I may want to, I may want to maybe do a little volunteer work. It could be with, the YMCA. I may want to do some volunteer work with junior achievement. I might want to do some volunteer work possibly with Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And so I can, now I have time to be someone else's big sister, someone else's big brother, not big brother, because there are no men, of course, in our group, but I might want to be someone's big sister. So from a professional perspective, what am I wanting to do, from a work perspective? From a personal perspective, what am I wanting to do, like in my fun time? There may be something, else that I want to explore. Maybe there's something I do not know that, I think I'd like to know that, I might want to get into the arts and maybe drawing, or I might want to get into pottery. What about woodwork? By golly, I want to do some skydiving and some bungee jumping. Of course, that's not for me. But by the same token, I do hear conversations like that. And so, of course, I say very little because, bungee jumping, I'm going to stay on flat ground unless I'm flying in an airplane or unless I'm driving or something like that. But coming down off of a rope, I think I'm going to lay all the way low on that activity. So that from a professional aspect and also from a personal perspective, those are things that it would be good to think about. Thirdly, then now that my teen is transitioning out of the home, guess what? It's time for me to reconfigure my budget. Because, and I'm specifically thinking about a request last night. There was a request about 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock last night. My ninth grader said, listen, let's order a pizza. Like a refrigerator, with food, and a pantry with food, cabinet with food. And there's this request for pizza. And so when your teen transitions out of the home, guess what? Those requests just like dwindle down. And so guess what? There's going to be additional dollars. Yay! It's like a whole raise. It's like a whole promotion. Okay? And so it may be time to just maybe reconfigure your budget. It might be that, oh my goodness, I would like to put some of those dollars in my investment portfolio. You know, of course, have my cash reserve, of course, in my checking and my savings, and there'll be any additional dollars, and have, I don't know, 3 to 6 months of my expenses in my cash reserve, and then above and beyond that, you know, I might need to think about, you know, additional dollars in reference to dollar cost averaging, possibly in some additional funds, or I might want to, you know, some people, you know, they may want to be may want to take additional risk, and they may want to purchase some equities. And so if that's the case, then of course, you know, that can be done with additional dollars, you know, given that you have that risk tolerance level. There may be some individuals who are saying, you know what, I may want to purchase some bonds. You know, those are a little safer, and they say, you know what, I would like, you know, to earn interest on those bonds. And so that could be, you know, additional dollars coming back your way after a certain period of time. And so, you know, so from a financial perspective, so you want to focus on professional, you want to focus on personal, you want to focus on financial, and just to make sure that, of course, you're covering all bases to make sure, of course, that you are prepared for this transition. And it's going to be an exciting transition, that's for sure. For my first daughter, it wasn't exciting for me. Many of you already know, you've been in the group for a while, you know that I was laying on my prayer closet floor wailing the moment we returned from Virginia Tech, driving those 17 hours, and I'm wondering, what in the world did we just do? We just left my daughter from Texas all the way on the East Coast amongst a number of strangers. And sometimes we think, okay, but they're just on a campus with other students, and listen, those students are strangers too. There are all types of things that happen on the college campus, and yes, by the other students. And so, you know, I'm just wanting you all to be prepared. I'm wanting you all to trust, and I'm wanting you all to, you know, look at these different areas so that you have a crystal clear clue, of course, you know, what you want to focus on. Because guess what? The likelihood of them being fine and them being able to make that transition a lot of times easier than us parents are, I have seen that to be quite valid. I have seen that to be the truth, that this younger generation, they are able, I mean, they take more risks and they adjust quite well. I look at my 3 daughters and see my oldest one, we have to have her in Colorado because she starts her first day on the job as a systems engineer on January 24th. So there's going to be a lot of traveling back and forth, and just got word not too long ago, and so of course finding housing and all of that, and getting her car there, and making sure that all of her items are there. You know, over the next 3 weeks it's going to be like a lot of moving pieces. And so, but guess what, when she gets there, she's going to adjust. She's going to adjust. She has, you know, previously, she's going to adjust. Will we miss her? Yes, because since she graduated last May, yes, we have become accustomed to her being at the house. And of course, you know, it's the way life is supposed to happen, at least in our path. For, you know, maybe, you know, we all have different journeys, and in our journey, of course, that's the way it's supposed to happen, and that's the way it is happening. Praise God. Okay, so we talked about from a professional perspective, a personal perspective, then also, guess what, from a financial perspective, we've talked about, listen, there's liable to be additional dollars, and you'll want to, of course, begin to picture those being set aside, because you won't have the requests regarding, of course, the late night pizza, you know, them asking, oh, I need a new phone, you know, all of those different types of things. Those requests, like, I don't even remember my daughters in college asking for a phone at all. Typically it's the one that's at the house and is accustomed to, you know, to purchases being made around them. And so that nonetheless, it's all good, and for us, those requests were less. Okay, so then also another area you'll want to look at, please, is you'll want to look at, and this is what I looked at, is I looked at community service. It was all about giving back for me. Whether that was wrapping gifts for children who had less, maybe impoverished. So wrapping gifts for them, and then taking them, and I did this with my church. There's a big warehouse, and there would be lots of gifts. So we'd spend time, a whole day, maybe half a day, maybe about 6 hours maybe, wrapping gifts. And then the families showed up the next day. And so we just helped them to shop around the warehouse and get gifts. You know what? I take that back. No, the first day we unloaded and laid all the gifts out. That's what we did. We laid all the gifts out. And then the second day, the families came, and then we helped to take them shopping around the warehouse. And then after that, they brought the gifts over to the table. And I was there, my mom, my sister, she would fly in from St. Louis, my mom would, and we'd wrap the gifts for the kids, or we'd wrap them for the parents to take home to the kids. And put it up under the tree, because of course Christmas was the next week, etc. So so it could be some type of community service where you are giving back. Look, giving back is the rent we pay to live on this earth. So give back in some shape, form, or fashion. Maybe at a nursing home. When I was in undergrad, I worked at a nursing home, and I absolutely loved that position. The only sad part is when the residents who I would become close with, when they would pass away. And so I would be saddened, and then go back to work and work for maybe, I don't know, a few more weeks, 3.5 weeks, a month, or 6 weeks, or 2 months, or what have you. And then another resident was passed away. That was the only thing that saddened me about that position. But listen, I learned so much. You're talking about wisdom. There's quite a bit of wisdom that just like resonates in the air at a nursing home. And it's like, oh my goodness, just, different sayings that I've never heard before, or a different perspective on how to see a situation, or it could be just a particular thought process when it comes to decision making, just all types of things. So I don't know if you've ever thought about that before, but there is wisdom in the nursing home. And guess what, even that, my husband teaches Sunday school class at our church, but downstairs there's a class that holds and the classroom has like all seniors, and I'm gonna say probably 70 and over. I'm just gonna be generous. I'm gonna say 65 and over, but I really think it's 70 and over. If my husband were not teaching Sunday school, and if support was unneeded in that area, I'm telling you, I would be gleaning in that Sunday school class downstairs. All seniors, just talking about Bible. Oh my goodness. It just doesn't get any better than that. It just doesn't get any better than that. So that's another area that we really want to look at. So when our teens transition out of the home, then they are, of course, we're prepared. Okay. So also, let's look at this from a mental perspective. In preparing ourselves. From a mental perspective, listen, I'm unable to tell you how many good books there are out there. And if you'd like me to place the title in our group, please let me know. There's so many good books. I'm able to travel across the globe just by reading a book. My mental is in a whole nother space just by reading a book. You pick up a book, oh my goodness, your intellect is like heightened on the next level. I try my best to like read every day. So please, so reading is good for the mental. You already know, meditation, prayer. Oh my goodness, prayer is good for everything. Not just the mental, the physical, everything. Prayer. That's my secret sauce. If y'all were ever wondering what's our secret sauce, by golly, it's prayer. Also, guess what? Affirmations. Throughout my life, if I affirm what I'm discerning in my spirit and spoke it aloud with emotion, and I know that I placed something, my team, there's no way I can take credit for posting that I, is that my area of expertise? Not even. So I know my team dropped something. It might have been in the group. It might have been on IG. I don't think in LinkedIn. I'm uncertain. But it talks about, affirmation and saying them aloud and saying them with emotion. Those things, according to God's will, has a way of coming true. I had some emotion behind me pursuing undergrad. It came to pass. My graduation came upon me too quickly. I'm going to say that. I wasn't ready to graduate. I wasn't ready to get out into the world. So I immediately jumped into grad school. As a matter of fact, I think I started that summer. I graduated in May, and then by golly, I was like in someone's, Bond University. It's a private university in St. Louis. But I jumped into their master's program like immediately. I'm like, what are y'all doing trying to, get me out here in this big wide world where it seems like kind of tough and rough? No, I'm going to go back to the familiar, and the familiar is having like four walls around me and a classroom, okay, where I can just learn. So nonetheless, pursued my MBA. But I'm bringing this thought full circle to say that, I spoke some things aloud. I affirmed what I saw in my spirit. I had some emotion behind it. So I'm telling you, it works. I'm just speaking truth right now. Then years passed. And for a while I thought, even from the very beginning, I thought I was going to go to law school. And then some things transpired in my life that let me know, law school isn't for me. So then I started hearing and speaking a PhD. And when I started to say that with emotion and affirm what I was sensing, I was discerning, then I started interviewing advisors at schools, and lo and behold, then 2017, of course, now a doctoral degree. So I must admit to you that it works. Affirmations work. So listen, write it down on a piece of paper, especially now that your teen is liable to be transitioned out of the home. You'll have some extra time, and there will be no reason for you to have to twiddle your thumbs and say, oh my goodness, what am I going to do next, and where am I going to be? And listen, I'm getting all of these thoughts and ideas, and guess what? I'm going to wrap up here in the next few moments, but there are more. So if you'd like for us to talk, jump on a call, DM me, or put a note. Yes, put a note on in our group. But we can talk more about those things that I did not focus on, but yet I should have. So just simply trying to help out. So in reference to the mental, yes, I focus on those things: reading, books, prayer, affirmations, and then guess what? And the last that I'll share is that you want to focus on more specifically the physical, okay? Whether it's, listen, I jumped into a PYO class, that's Pilates and yoga. And, the stretching, all of that was good and released stress. And biking was good. Some people like to do some swimming. That's good as well. Lifting, weights, all of those different things are absolutely phenomenal for the physical. So I would encourage each and every one of you to please begin to focus on yourself. In addition to your team's transition, I just want, and the reason this area is so passionate for me is because for my first daughter, I was only focusing on her and her safe transition. And, you know, just, again, returned back here to Houston and was thinking, what in the world? What did we just do? We just were going through the motions as opposed to really focusing on, of course, what we needed to do. And so, but for my second one, I did so much better. Yes, there was still a pull on the heartstring. And then for my third one, I'm sure there'll still be a pull on the heartstring. But guess what? I am going to be so very ready. I'm going to be ready because that's just a part of life's path as we see it right now. So listen, I appreciate each and every one of you. I love you. I'm praying for you. And I will look forward to seeing each and every one of you next year in 2022. So please be safe as you're out enjoying family and friends. Know that you have someone here in Texas who is on your side and know where you are and is willing to provide advice and suggestions. And even it may be good to go back and look at some of the videos that were previously recorded because it could have, some of them could have already answered some questions. Take care. I'll see y'all next week. Be safe. Bye.